Thanks for staying on the line there. We want to welcome you to the show. You wanted to share a thought or had a question?
Yes, thank you for accepting my call. First and foremost, I think the world can learn something from the Egyptians. They did a remarkable job. I must say, I am happy to see the way the unity of the people just moved the world. And it's full time. The poor recognize their strength. And that's something that the poor has been lacking. We are not recognizing our strength. We vote these people in. These people work for us. We don't work for these people. And if the world can take a leaf out of the Egyptians' book, whether it be Christian nations, whether it be Sikh nation, whether it be Hindu nation, it doesn't matter what nation in terms of religious aspects. It just means that people are people and people should be treated with respect by their government. Whether you're from Afghanistan or Jamaica or wherever you're from, as long as you're a citizen of this world, you reserve the rights to be treated with respect. It doesn't matter which government is ruling your country. And that is a wonderful, wonderful move the Egyptians make. I hope the Iranians can do the same. I also hope the Jamaicans can do the same. With all this crime and violence in Jamaica, if the people of Jamaica decide that we are not going to work, the government don't have a job. That's just simple as that.
Howie, we got to cut you off there, but some very powerful thoughts there. And we have to say the uprising movement, I mean, it does appear contagious. Tunisia, Egypt, Algeria, Yemen, I mean, who's next, right? It just sort of does seem like a firestorm. Now, for our viewers at home, do not adjust your television sets. We did not have a shape-shifting guest. We have a new guest in studio. Ayman Al-Hakim, welcome to the show. And Adley was our previous guest. We didn't get a chance to say goodbye on air.
I'll say goodbye for you.
Yes, well, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for coming in. And you are an organizer of sort of pro-Egyptian rallies. You organized the latest one in Toronto, Yonge and Dundas Square.
That's correct, yes. Part of the Toronto Coalition to Stop the War. We have meetings where every week where we organize these rallies, different, obviously that cover different issues that pertain to the Middle East, but obviously with the Egyptian Revolution being the big one recently, we've been organizing rallies every week at Yonge and Dundas Square and at Queen's Park as well.
I feel bad for you because you sort of walked into a number of arguments that we were having at the time. We were talking about Coptics and their treatment historically in Egypt, and we were about to tackle the other not-so-light topic of international relations, Egypt and Israel. Many people in the international community are watching to see what sort of policies might be developed in terms of dealing with Israel from Egypt. Egypt right now, historically has had some pretty friendly ties that have maybe cost them relationship points with other nations in that region. Stance on Israel, we'll start right here to my left.
It was very clear from the beginning when the Supreme Military Council declared in their third declaration that Egypt will respect all its international agreements and the decrees issued in that respect. So it was a message to calm down Israel because, as you have seen, they have deployed lots of forces close to the border.
Oh, yeah.
They were afraid that this might be a fourth war with Israel. But the Supreme Military Council calmed them down and said Egypt will respect all its treaties and agreements. However, if you look back to the people now, the people, I don't think that they have the time to discuss these issues right now. They have, first of all, to arrange the house from the inside. They have to clean the mess, make things work again. That's why all the ministers that they are appointing now are theocratic, it's technocratic ministers.
Yeah.
So they can move things forward. So the issue of Israel and any threat now or retreating from the agreement, I don't think it's gonna happen in the very near future or the future at all.
I have to say, you got to be kidding me. This will be a huge national issue for Israel. I mean, Israel
for
and
Israel,
Egypt.
not for Egypt.
For both of them. And I mean, you can say it's all well and good right now, but there's a lot of people. You don't have to be nervous about a war, but just everyday dealings, from anything from trade agreements to relations on all sorts of levels. It will be an issue.
I'll tell you something that is specific. The Washington Institute that I quoted earlier, the WashingtonInstitute.org, they've had the study February 5th to the 8th, and they of course asked that question because it's a big one.
It's a huge one.
It's certainly the most important one for the United States because the United States' main interest in the region is Israel.
Yep.
And interestingly enough, the numbers are very interesting in that only 22% of Egyptians oppose the current peace treaty between Egypt and Israel, and 37% favor it. So clearly more people are in favor of certainly the peace treaty. I think what you're going to have is Egyptians are not naive. When it comes to understanding political implications on an international scale, they have a lot of experience. Egypt has had a lot of wars with Israel. They've learned lessons from it, as has Israel. Both countries are fully aware that wars between them are very costly, and that's why they've come to this peace agreement after the 1973 war. And I think what you will have if Egypt successfully, and we hope it does, come to this democratic process with successful representative government, what you'll have is Egyptians will always have an issue with human rights violations in Israel vis-a-vis the Palestinians. So for example, currently with the Gaza siege, right? Israel has a siege on Gaza where they don't allow weapons mainly, right? However, that also impacts medicine and other medical and food and so on. Now, Egypt, the Mubarak regime, was fully supportive of that. Okay, the Mubarak regime enforced that because Gaza has borders with Egypt. So what you will have is a problem for Israel in regards to a siege, where they're not allowing the civilian population to get a lot of its needs. That's going to be a problem in a free Egypt. Egyptians will not stand for that. Whereas Mubarak was willing to do it in exchange for favors with the U.S. and Israel and so on. So these types of policies, Egyptians will balk against and will stand up. Pretty much, I would say, like Turkey, in the sense of the relation between Israel and Turkey is one based on trade, based on...
Very pragmatic.
Right, but it is not, there's not going to be any love if there's going to be human rights violations vis-a-vis the Palestinians with the continued building of the settlements and so on. But at the end of the day, these are very mature people. The Egyptians are very mature when it comes to that. They're not going to be running... As Imad said, I think the economy will be a priority right now for rebuilding. And relations with Israel, while they are very important, I don't think that you're going to see much change in the near term.
The only one, sorry.
We want to get Ayman to weigh in here, and then we'll have time for rebuttals.
I was just going to echo the sentiments that we've already heard. I mean, Ahmed made an excellent point that Egyptians already have a lot on their plate. I mean, it's not an easy thing to write a constitution or rewrite a constitution and put in a system, a brand new parliamentary system, a brand new government, a system of checks and balances so that there can be more transparency in the government, so that it's more answerable and it answers to the demands of the people. To start any type of animosity with Israel at this point wouldn't make any sense for them to do so.
No, I'm not suggesting there'll be an instigation of any sort. I'm saying that it's a matter, I mean, the countdown's on until there's another international issue coming up out of Israel, and then nations react. That's what happens. What will be the next reaction, I think, is what a lot of people are waiting for. Back to the phone line. Stephanie is our next caller. Good evening, Stephanie.
Hi, good evening.
Wanted to get your quick thoughts here?
Yes, I'm a university student, and I just wanted to say that on campus, everyone is just super excited and very happy, and I have a lot of Egyptian friends, so I'm also very happy for them.
Very good.
Yeah, and I do have a question, actually. I was just wondering, what are your thoughts, or do you guys' thoughts on how it's going to change the future for the young generation right now?
All right. That's a good question, Stephanie. I think you got company. We heard a doorbell there, and we'll let you take that. I mean, for youth, I mean, you can protest all you want. They can't build universities in a day, and
no, but I'll tell you something that's go ahead.
No, I would leave you to answer this question because about youth, and you are young, so you can.
And I'll tell you something fascinating, and this would be very popular at any university. What you have is youth are going to play a tremendous role in creating a government in Egypt today. That's what's happened. The army will sit down with the youth leaders. And when does that happen? I mean, the governments that ruled Egypt in the past never sat down with anyone. Now they're going to sit.
Although we did hear students complaining that they were not brought to the tables in talks with the government's representation.
No, the initial Mubarak's thing was a sham. That was a sham. They didn't sit down with anyone. But now the youth have been accepted as leaders in this revolution, and they will play an instrumental role, which is very refreshing. You got to realize Egypt's median age is 24 years old. And so these people are not represented in parliament. I mean, nobody was represented in parliament,
Yeah.
but certainly the youth, who are a big block of the population, had no representation. But that will change, and they're not going to give up.
Imad, what can youth expect?
Well, actually, the youth in Egypt made a big surprise. We underestimated them.
Yeah.
Most of, not my generation, maybe an older generation thought that, oh, those are kids. And that's not true now. It proved to be not true. Those kids are more aware and more educated than many people who are more senior in age. And I believe in one thing, which I learned from my father, by the way. My father always told me, you have to learn from the younger ones, because they are always exposed more to technology,
Oh, yeah.
to information.
Your average 10-year-old now is twice
they
as smart as all of us.
Right.
You look at what they've
They-
been exposed to
They
already.
are more
it's
eager to
unbelievable.
learn as well. So that's why I think the youth of Egypt made a big surprise and showed us how they are very, very well organized, intelligent, and educated, disciplined as well, and respectful. So
And active.
Youth in Egypt, yeah, we'll pick it up there. We only got about 30 seconds.
Right. I mean, this proved that youth can be involved, interested, and passionate about what the future of their country. We see a lot of apathy in the Western countries from the youth towards politics, and you see that was the complete opposite in Egypt. And I think they're extremely excited and optimistic about their futures and their chance to rewrite history, to be a part of a brand new type of democracy in the Middle East. And it's very exciting for them. And I don't think they're going to let this opportunity go to waste.
It is interesting looking at if they could have a country where young people would vote in droves, and if it would happen for more than one election, it would be remarkable.
One
I
of the
mean,
demands, by the way, was to lower the voting age.
yes, to lower the voting age. And even in
Lower
Canada,
than
it's at
18?
18, but
Yeah.
I mean, it might as well be 34 because
if you've got
not many under
16-year-olds
18.
voting,
Yeah,
you're voting,
not many
right.
in that age group. You're watching Talk Local on Rogers TV. We'll be right back. We do have time for maybe a couple quick phone calls. We'll try to get to as many as we can. 905-848-LIVE. That's 905-848-5483. Welcome back to Talk Local. I'm Ben Mercer. Tonight we are talking about, well, the issue that many people around the world are talking about, the success of Egypt's uprising and what is next. We want to get quickly to a caller as we're in our final segment. Simon, welcome to the show.
Hi there, how are you?
Not bad. And you had a quick thought you wanted to share with us?
Yes. I just had a quick question. First of all, it's good news to hear in Egypt what occurred, but what do you think the outcome would be for minorities in Egypt, specifically Christians in Egypt, as they are persecuted on a day-to-day basis, as Mubarak has stepped down now?
Well, thanks for your call. He must be a late viewer as we
Right.
tackled the issue of Coptics pretty intensely earlier in the show. And we talked about the discrimination, which is, we all think discrimination in North America. We think, oh, racial discrimination. Well, no, religious discrimination has been an issue and continues to be an issue in Egypt. The short answer is we don't know. I mean, as we've been talking about today, the Constitution will dictate every single little thing. And I mean, if they get that right, they have no worries at all. But as you were saying, this isn't a massive issue. This isn't a line in the sand. These are not minor issues, but somewhere in between in the political realm.
Look, if
we'll
Egypt,
get right here and here as we have a Coptic and a
If
Muslim right
Egypt,
at the
no,
table.
I think if Egypt successfully goes all the way to a democratic system that is representative of the people, then the Copts will get their rightful place in society. If this is hijacked one way or another, then of course that would be in jeopardy. However, I don't find the danger of extremism and the revolution being hijacked from within. I actually think the danger of hijacking and extremism comes from outside of Egypt. Egyptian society itself, I'm not as concerned about if it had a say in its
You're
own.
saying influence from surrounding countries.
I'm saying, yes. I mean, for example, you talked about, it's all tied together, the economic development, for example.
Absolutely,
Egypt's going to need economic development. It's going to need a lot of investment. Where is that going to come from? What kind of strings will be attached? And so you can see how foreigners will have some increased influence in
And
the
if they
coming
look to their
months.
direct neighbors, it might be more of the same.
Yeah, but I have to
remains to
say,
be seen.
I'm very optimistic, though. Having Mubarak out of the way is a tremendous step towards freedom for all Egyptians, which definitely
I'm less optimistic, but I'm excited at the prospect. We want to get two more thoughts here.
I'm more optimistic. What we saw on the TV with these protests were Christians guarding Muslims as they prayed and vice versa. And I think that spirit of unity is truly representative of the Egyptian attitude towards fellow Egyptians. And I think as long as you have a truly representative government, that will be reflected. So I'm more optimistic that way. And